Hello there. For today's session, I'm going to show you a demo on an application that is implemented on a monolithic approach. I'm going to show you an illustration, what I was trying to say here. So here is an example of a PHP application. Actually, it's just the same concept, whether either you write in an Angular project or application or a React or a Java. So it's just the same concept. But for this demo, I'm going to show you using PHP. So for example, this is actually the typical design for a monolithic approach. On the second part of this video, I'm going to show you the microservice approach, right? So let's say for the monolithic approach, it's actually, example, you have one big application or huge application that whereby all of your contents is stored in a single container. It's like, let's say for example, this web server container, we call it web server container. So in the web server container, we have our landing page. We are other pages like, for example, the offices.php or the employees page, so everything. And typically, it is connected to a database. So usually we put it in another container, which is actually we call it MySQL server container. So one of the pages just initiate a connection to the database. So the disadvantage of this usually once let's say for example this container for some reason it doesn't work or doesn't start up, so the whole application goes down. That means none of these pages is accessible. This is the reason why we wanted to revise or re-engineer into an approach which is what we call the microservice approach. So let's say for example, with from this architecture, probably we can change it to microservice approach. Let's say for example, the landing page would contain one container, and let's say for the other pages, this case, let's say the offices.php is in another container, and this employees page is in another container, and the database is in another container. Of course, there's a lot other solutions that can create more replicas for this, but what we are trying to say here is the architecture that we are going to divide all these application into microservices. So let's see. If you want to follow along, actually you can download the source code. I have prepared a docker-compose file that would actually implement this monolithic approach. And on the second part of this video, you're going to download again another code, a docker-compose file that is designed for the microservice approach, right? So let's start with the monolithic approach. So for the monolithic approach, you can actually just download the code from here, the master branch. So let's try to clone from this repository. Okay, I'm going to put this one on my drive D. Okay. So I think we have successfully cloned our repository. So we will try to open this on our text editor. So you can use any of your favorite text editor, but in my case, I'm going to use Atom as my text editor. So let's try to see what is the content of the Docker Compose file. Let's just clear it up. There you go. All right, so here's our Docker Compose file. So I'm not gonna teach you about how I'm gonna write the Docker Compose, but in this case, I'm going to show you how this stuck in this design is being done in the Docker Compose. So here I have created two services, which is the web server and the MySQL server, which is actually on our design from this monolithic approach. We have the web server container and we have the MySQL server container. So from this web server, I'm going to build from this file, PHP Docker file, and I want you to always start every time the container is on. And I'm going to map you from the container. I'm going to access it outside with the port 8080. So let's see what is this PHP Docker file. Okay, so the PHP Docker file that I've just created, I call this one. I copy it from my base image. This base image, you can actually get it from here. xgenexika/php mono. Right, so I'm gonna use that image and I'm gonna copy my source code. So these are all my source code, the PHP. So you don't have to worry about all these folders here. So you just have to worry about these three files here: our index, the display.php, and the office.php. So if you're familiar about writing PHP application, so this should be easy for you. So there's nothing much here. This app would actually just show you the IP address of where this application is being hosted and the port that is being used by the application. Apart from it will give you the links, office, and for the display.php. Right? So display.php is nothing but showing just a series of images for their offices. Sorry, office.php, and it's gonna show you the server address and the server port as well. It's just a display, but this is the other page, which is the display.php, would actually is the page whereby it needs to connect to a database. So here's my snippet of the code. So in this case, I'm going to connect my this is how we connect to that MySQL server. This is actually the name, the server name that is being we declared here on our Docker Compose. So we connect it via port 3306, and I'm gonna log in as root with my password. So I'm gonna connect under users DB. Right? So okay. So on this part, we created this service, and again we are calling another Docker file, which is we call the MySQL Docker file. So from here, I'm just using this image, the MySQL image, and I have my environmental variables, whereby I declare the root password as my password, create a database called usersdb, and my password that I'm going to use. And here, this last line is the most important part because I wanted to create that database with the data once the container is up. So that means I'm gonna copy this file. It's just a series of SQL statement, and I'm gonna put it here on this MySQL container. So if you're going to open that, this is just a series of SQL whereby I need to create the table, I need to insert the data. So for this case, I just inputted for testing three data, three items on this table users. So once the MySQL service is up, okay, or the MySQL server container is up, I wanted you to execute all these commands, series of commands. So that would mean that by the time the MySQL server is up, the data is there. So let's try to see. We're going to bring this up. Okay. So we don't have anything here. Okay. So I'm going to bring this up. So this will gonna take a while because it's going to download everything from the internet. So you can just watch and see what is going on. So this is step one, is going to download my image. And let's try to observe. All right, let's try to see if our application is fully up. Right, so we have our application which is up by 38 seconds. So our container is open can be accessed by port 8080. So let's try to load it up. Oops, yep, that loads automatically. Yep, so here's our application. So if we say office.php, as you see, we are on the same container IP 21.0.3. So this is the page, still 21.0.3. And yep, let's try to see. I want to search the items that I have placed. Yep, it successfully connect to the MySQL container. And I don't have number 4. All right, so I think we're done for this monolithic approach. So don't get misguided by this title here, because on the part 2 of this video, we're going to convert this architecture or design into a microservice approach. Right, so if you like this video, please subscribe and stand by for more videos of it. Thank you.